And hello, welcome to Social Justice Forums. I am your Daren, Jaime, your host, and we thank you for joining us. Now, if you are asking the question, what is the show all about? We bring you a forum discussing and providing deeper understanding of the issues and inequities that so many people face. Things such as systemic inequality to pressing social problems. Our guests provide multiple perspectives and insights to help us better understand as well as address these challenges. So we invite you to stay connected with us. The Social Justice Forum starts now. Welcome back. An incredible statistic: 1 in 3 women and 1 in 9 men will experience sexual assault at some point in their life. Although it's a highly prevalent societal issue, survivors of sexual assault often fail to have access towards crucial support systems. Joining us now is the Mount Sinai Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Program Coordinator and Community Educator, Ariela Garcia. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The conversation about sexual assault is truly one that needs to be had because when we look at the amount of victims that are out there, that is a high percentage of people. But I guess the big question is, why is there such a lack of safe spaces, if you will, to be able to deal with this issue?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for pointing out, such a prevalence in this issue. So oftentimes we recognize, right, that it's a taboo topic, right? Many people don't want to talk about it. Sometimes survivors themselves feel that they are maybe not in a space where these conversations are welcome. So, sometimes the conversation around rape culture that happens, right, where sometimes folks have not been provided with the adequate, resources or information, or, sometimes survivors feel the fear of expressing themselves and reporting the situation or telling someone that they know. Sometimes, the judgment that might come from that. Oftentimes makes people feel like there aren't any safe spaces to be able to express themselves when it comes to sharing about their experiences or reporting their experience in general.
Yeah. In the public eye, we hear the word sexual assault more now than ever before, but a lot of misconception as to what exactly sexual assault is. So I do want to ask you, Ariela, to take a moment and just let us know the definition of sexual assault as we know it.
Yeah, so sexual assault is typically defined as any act of violence. So that means either physical or verbal, in which sex is used as a weapon. So essentially, at its most basic level, sexual assault refers to any form of non-consensual sexual activity. So this encompasses all unwanted sexual acts, from intimidation to touching to penetration. And so sexual act is an act of aggression designed to humiliate, intimidate, control, oftentimes instill fear, right? And so sexual violence is an umbrella term encompassing a variety of behaviors along with sexual assault.
Yeah.
So that would be the main definitions.
And, we said 1 in 3 women and 1 in 9 men will experience sexual assault at some point in their life. Putting men aside for just a second, let's just talk about women. 1 in 3 actually
Mhm.
will experience sexual assault over some part of their lifestyle. I mean, their lifetime. That is incredible
Alarm.
statistic. Yeah. Your
Yeah, yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, absolutely. So, according to RAINN, which is one of the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organizations, an American is sexually assaulted every 68 seconds. So, we think about 1 in 3, we think about 1 in 9, right? Every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. So, this is huge, right? We think about the prevalence of this issue, how often this happens. And on average, there are 463,634 victims of rape and sexual assault each year in the United States. So, we're talking about almost 500,000 people. And so we also know that these rates are much higher for transgender and gender nonconforming folks specifically as well. Um, and that folks aged 12 to 34 are the highest risk years for rape and sexual assault. So, particularly the age group of 18 to 34 holds 54% of these statistics. So this is why us at Savvy specifically, we feel that it's so important to partner, with college-age folks and campuses in order to provide, education towards sexual assault and sexual violence prevention. But yeah, the prevalence is huge. Again, we think about 1 in 3, and that is a very large number.
So when you have someone who has become a victim of sexual assault, I think so many times people think that okay, it happened and that's it, and people go on with their lives. But the reality is, a lot of people, up until this very present day, will not go on with their lives because of the trauma, the drama, and also the stigma associated with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the common reactions that we often see are, shame, fear, denial, sleep disturbances, suicidal ideations, depression. There's an abundance of reactions to such a traumatic event. Um, and so oftentimes these emotions and post-traumatic reactions can have an effect on a survivor's everyday life. So it can affect the way they go about their daily routines. It can impact, their academic success, their work, um, affect relationships with people around them, and, many other ways that it can definitely affect them. So we have to understand the state that a person may approach us, if someone we know or we ourselves have experienced sexual violence in our lives. We have to understand the state that a person may approach us, and the fact that the varying reactions that exist are all normal reactions to a very abnormal event. So it's important to note that no two reactions are the same, and all the reactions that may come up are valid. But it can definitely make a huge impact in someone's life and affect them, in many different ways. Every individual that has experienced sexual violence or sexual assault specifically can react differently. And for some, it could be negative. For some, it could empower them. And so we hope here at Savvy that we can provide the resources and options to help give them a bit of their autonomy back and try not to re-victimize them in any way.
You led into my next question because I want to talk about SAVI for a moment and the opportunity for people to take part in some of the programs, or learn, I should say, about some of the programs that you have available. So when it comes to victims of sexual assault and others, what are some of the programs you do have available?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have therapy for survivors and co-survivors as well. So co-survivors meaning any loved ones or folks who have experienced this abuse with a survivor. We also have emergency department advocacy training where we train volunteers to be able to join folks that come in to our emergency departments that have experienced sexual assault, and just be able to be there as an advocate, as a person of support, let them know what their options are, their rights, just be another body in the room that is there for them to be able to support them in such a vulnerable moment. We also have outreach training education, right? That's the team that I'm a part of, where we provide workshops for folks. We do outreach, we do tabling events, many partnerships with college campuses, community-based organizations, and communities.
And for yourself, obviously working with these individuals, got to be a good expression, a good feeling for you in terms of being able to have a hand in the healing process, knowing that this is not something that's easy, it's not something that's overnight, but the fact that you can be there to be a safe space and a safe place. Talk to us about just that, somebody having a bridge where there's that safe place and safe space.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me specifically, as a program coordinator, community educator, right, because we have our team of clinicians that actually provide, these therapy services for folks and survivors of sexual violence. But as an educator, for me, it's really rewarding, especially when I have, many spaces and many times have had folks disclose their situations to me, and being able to know that I'm making a difference in the work that I do by providing options and resources, by teaching them about simple things that we don't think about, like consent, right? The definitions of the umbrella term sexual violence and other things that fall under it, because oftentimes people don't understand what their experiences are, or that what they have lived through is abuse and is violence. So for me, it's really rewarding to be able to provide folks with, the autonomy to get to gain a little power back from, a moment that maybe has robbed that away from them, and to be able to provide that education so that they are aware of their options and that they now have the power, through this education, to be able to go about their lives in the way that they would like to.
We talked a little bit at the beginning about the statistic: 1 in 3 women over the course of a lifetime will experience sexual assault at one time or another. How
Mhm.
accurate is that, given the fact that we know when it comes to sexual assault, reporting it, many women will tell you in a moment that I wasn't quick to come forward. I don't come forward because of the shame, victimization that's associated with that. So when we look at a 1 in 3 statistic, the reality is we could be actually seeing a whole lot more than just 1 in 3, because there's a whole lot more that are underreported, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you brought up a great point, right? There's a lot of shame, victimization, right? And so we definitely know that these numbers that we see, these statistics that we, see and read out, and whatever the case may be, are certainly much higher because many are underreported. And we think about 1 in 9 men, for example, right? We know that that statistic is very underreported, specifically because of the stigma and the taboo that comes with, men coming forward, or folks that identify as men coming forward, about their experiences. So, yeah, absolutely, these numbers are, um, more than likely much higher than what we see in these statistics.
With the use of technology right now, we talk about reporting. How much easier is it for either reporting? During COVID, we had people who could get telehealth visits. What about in
Mhm.
the area of sexual assault counseling and things of that nature? Talk to me about how technology has actually played a role in this.
Yeah, so for us specifically at SAVI, technology has played a huge role in terms of, being able to provide services for folks, at a faster pace, usually because we are able to, see them virtually now, versus prior to COVID, right? Most of us were seeing folks in person. We also think about how, especially on social media, for example, it's easier to report. Um, it can go either way, right? Sometimes, social media policies, um, side with folks who are not in the right, and, it can actually be more re-traumatizing than, good. But we often see that there are more options now for, anti-online abuse, cyber stalking, cyberbullying, right? There are now laws that are put into place as well, right? So we obviously can't deny the influence that these online platforms and technology have had on us for many years. It's important to recognize the impact of these devices and, how far they've taken us within society. Um, we know that, technology, of course, has its downfalls, and, um, but I think it has definitely been able to allow us to, um, gain more access to telehealth services, for example, to, mental health services, and many more. So I think when it comes to reporting specifically, um, I think it might have made the situation easier for some folks, but maybe for others, depending on their individual situations, it might have made it more challenging. So again, it could go either way.
What are you seeing on your end, given the fact that we're seeing more of a zero tolerance perspective coming from employers? We look around and we see whether it's a corporation, you can see athletes, entertainers. Uh, they will say that it's now the cancel culture. If somebody is a victim of or a defender of sexual assault, pretty much that person's employment is terminated. Their career is pretty much canceled out. Talk to me about what you're seeing on your end. Does this give women a little bit more in the safe zone to say, listen, I'm willing to come forward?
I think so. I think, we are. now changing perspectives in terms of believing survivors, which is really one of the most important things that we can do for them, right? Oftentimes, what we've seen historically and in past years is that the shame, the re-victimization, the fear of speaking out is due to the fact that most of the time, right, they either were not being believed, or they were being re-victimized by putting the or you know being put the blame on them, by victim blaming, right? So I think that certainly this has brought a more supportive, I think, energy to community, to society in general, to be able to know that, if I do come out, if I do speak up about this, excuse me, folks will believe me, right? And I think that is one of the most important things that you can do for survivors: believe them, um, and be able to support them in any which way that they may need in that moment.
Yeah, I do want to get a chance to talk a little bit of something that you have at your organization, and that's the Sexual Assault Forensics Examiner program,
Mhm.
and that's the SAFE program. Unpack that for us so we can become a little bit more familiar.
Yeah, so we are able to provide services for folks who come in and have experienced sexual assault or sexual violence. And, these folks are specifically trained to deal with these kinds of situations. So, they are able to go through the evidence collection kit, for example. They are able to explain, exactly what will happen throughout this process. It's all a trauma-informed process. And these folks, again, as I mentioned, are specifically trained to deal with these kinds of situations, which I think allows, a survivor to feel like they are, no pun intended, in a more safe environment when it comes to getting medical treatment, for example, or going through an evidence collection kit with someone that is able to help them in a much different manner that maybe someone who hasn't been trained in this specific situation.
Yeah, and for yourself, I know the work continues daily, and the voices continue to be lifted in the area of sexual assault, speaking out against it. What's on the table legislatively that people need to be paying attention to, or what can they get behind that can also enhance, Ariela, the work that's going on?
Yeah, so something that we can definitely get behind on is that oftentimes the window of reporting can sometimes be short, and survivors, they may not be able to come to terms with what has happened for a long time. So we opened up the 1 year window under the Adult Survivors Act, which was created for folks who have experienced sexual assault, to be able to bring civil sexual assault lawsuits even decades after the alleged conduct occurred and after the applicable deadline for filing a claim had expired. So it would be great to continue to push for these kinds of things, right? To be able to provide people with, the time that they may need to be able to, report if they would like. Um, Another challenge is that this is a crime that 85% of the time happens in private, behind closed doors, between people who know each other. And, reporting might be difficult when it comes to these instances. So again, I emphasize the culture of believing survivors, of, being able to support them in this time of need, by, following their lead, letting them know that there are services available for them. And so, prevailing attitudes towards sexual violence as well, gender norms. Society often blames the victim for the assault, and criminal justice processes may not uphold the survivor. So, these are just some things that maybe some challenges that a survivor might face that we as a society can push to um, further be able to support a survivor.
We have a society that's filled with diversity, right? We know that there's a diverse society out there and the needs are different. I know also one of the things that you do as working in that diversity component is you have an opportunity to really deal with women in the Orthodox Jewish community. So I want to share a little bit about how people in the Orthodox Jewish community are being served when it comes to the issue of sexual assault?
Yes. So, it's a very complex issue, right? When it comes to sexual assault in the Jewish community. So, we have services that are specifically available for folks in this community, and so we have folks that are within the Jewish community that serve um, those who may need any, therapy, any advocacy. So lots of things that we can provide, for co-survivors as well, and to be able to provide the resources that they may need, depending on everyone's individual situation. So we have these specific services, but it's the services that are provided for everyone, for every survivor that comes through our doors, that may need our services.
Where do people go for education and training when it comes to this issue? Because we hear it, we see it, we talk about it, but there's still a lot of people who are very ignorant to it and ignorant to the consequences, ignorant to information concerning it.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. So, for us specifically, for example, myself, I mostly partner with college campuses. Again, as we went over the statistics, right, we know that there's a high prevalence of folks that have experienced or will experience sexual assault during these college age years. So it's really important for us to be able to partner with college campuses and kind of get in where we can prior to the age, as to where this is most prevalent, to be able to provide that education to, hopefully prevent sexual assault and sexual violence by being able to have the conversations surrounding consent, surrounding, what these things are, and how to identify them. So, oftentimes, for example, I can provide workshops and campuses, for any community based organizations, again, through community fairs and things like that. So, SAVI specifically, if you look into our site, you can request workshops to be held. But aside from us, right, there's other community-based organizations such as Kingsbridge Community, um, Kingsbridge Heights, sorry, Community Center, right? We have CVTC, which is the Crime Victims Treatment Center. We have Womankind. Um, so there are many places throughout the communities that can provide education for folks. It's often hard to find them. And oftentimes we encourage people to, just do a quick Google search, right? And oftentimes all of our services will come up. There are many available throughout the city. Um, Unfortunately, you might have to, do some research, but we are available and we are here prepared to be able to educate folks.
Ariel, let me ask you about the receptivity on college campuses. Obviously, we know that that's the site for a lot of incidents of sexual assault. We have young people who are just independent, free, and we know what that looks like and what that sounds like in many different ways. Talk to me about that receptivity when you're on campus, we're presenting, having a conversation with some of these young people. Um, what's it like on the guys' side? Let's talk about guys first.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I mean, we know that we will often see a presence of women or of folks who identify as women in our presentations. However, we are now starting to see more guys come up, or folks who identify as men, come to our spaces. I think, you know, you mentioned the technology and the presence of, online spaces, right? um, as much as they can be negative, they can also be really positive. So we see oftentimes that, um, you know, there's been a culture of consent, that has been promoted throughout TikTok, throughout Instagram. We often see that these influences, create more conversation amongst the couples that we might see, and they might say, hey, to their partners, right? Especially male presenting partners, you know, can we go to this workshop that's being held on campus? So we're seeing a lot of that happen where folks are pulling other folks in to the conversations that we're having on campus. And it has been really great. We are seeing more sororities, more fraternities show up to our workshop. So, I think it's signifies the huge shift that we see when it comes to these kinds of conversations, specifically when we talk about Greek culture in the past, right? And um, how much that has changed to be able to join our conversations when it comes to sexual violence in general and what their options and resources are.
Yeah. So if people want to get connected to the work that you're doing, how do they go about getting connected to the resources?
Yeah, so you can check out our website. It's Mount Sinai. We can check out our Instagram as well. It's Mount Sinai SAVI um, on Instagram. You can go to our website, which is mountsinaisavi.com. And yeah, so many ways that you can get in touch with us. Our phone number is 212-241-2430. Um, just feel free to reach out. 2140, sorry. So you can free to reach out at any time, and we hope to get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah. It's been great having this conversation with you because in this extended conversation, sexual assault awareness and then also the resources that are available. You can talk to Ariela and she'll be glad to get you connected right where you need to go. If for somebody who's watching right now saying, listen, I may have a relative or a friend or somebody that I know is a victim and they need some help, but they're not really receiving it or wanting to receive it right now, what's the best advice you give before we go?
Yeah, just be patient, right? Oftentimes, I think as people who love other people, right? We're empathetic with other folks. We want oftentimes for them to do what we think is right, but what we need to do is just be able to be there for them, respect their space, respect their time, and just be patient in general. Be patient with, the steps that it might take for them to be able to muster up the courage to report or just be able to tell you in general, right? And so we want to make sure that we provide folks with, the education, the options, the resources, and then give them the opportunity to make their own choices, right? We want to be able to give them the power back that has already been taken away from them. So my main advice is just, listen, believe them, validate them, and be able to be patient with them.
All right. Ariela, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us. Indeed, a good conversation in terms of information and awareness as we talk about the issue of sexual assault. 1 in 3 women assaulted over the course of their lifetime, 1 in 9 men, and trying to do better in the area of these statistics, and then also getting them the much needed help. Ariela, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All righty, we're taking a quick break. We got more coming up right after this.
The ability to have my show during this time is helpful because I can stay connected with my friends, still interview people, and share my content.
And welcome back. The United States identifies 2 main types of trafficking: forced labor and sex trafficking, both constituting modern slavery prevalent in every state. Now, the scale of this issue is alarming. JCCA offers top-tier mental health, education, and child welfare services for families in New York City. Their their Center for Healing specifically caters to children who survive sexual exploitation, an egregious form of child sexual abuse, often involving trafficking. Joining me now and sharing more is a social work therapist at Center for Healing, Carrie DeWatt. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to raise awareness about human trafficking.
It's very prevalent, and as we talk about, the numbers don't lie, and we see these numbers continuing to rise, but agencies such as yourself really are at the forefront of making sure that this matter gets looked at and also addressed.
Absolutely.
Can you share a little bit more for us?
So, JCCA is actually a 200-year-old child and family services organization that provides high quality child welfare and mental health services to over 17,000 children and their families every year across New York City and the rest of the state. We have multiple programs that strive to reunite families and keep our most vulnerable children safe. At the Center for Healing, where I work, we're located in Pleasantville, New York, right outside of the Bronx, and we provide comprehensive, specialized trauma informed services to children who have been sexually abused or are at risk or have experienced the commercial sexual exploitation.
And for your organization, obviously providing healing and help is most needed, as well as the resources. So for your clients, let's talk about some of these services that are actually available to clients.
Yeah, so we provide individual therapy. We use different trauma informed modalities such as trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. We also provide family therapy, in home services. You know, our ultimate goal is to heal children and reunite them with their families.
And when we talk about the therapy that you provide for children, uh, obviously they come in with a lot of tension, a lot of baggage. I assume that it does take a while before you get a child to really be able to connect and then also to provide the services that are most needed.
Yeah, definitely. You know, our children have experienced a lot of different forms of abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, neglect. You know, we're talking about human trafficking. A lot of our children have been commercially sexually exploited. So, adults that they thought they could trust that then hurt them.
Yeah. And so, how do we not justify, but how would we actually define human trafficking? There's no justification. Let me make sure about that. But how do you define human trafficking?
Yeah, so the Department of Homeland Security defines human trafficking as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. It's actually the second most profitable illegal industry in the United States. Some ways we see human trafficking can be through forced labor, domestic servitude, or by the commercial sexual exploitation of children, often referred to as CSEC. So, what is CSEC? CSEC involves a range of crimes and activities involving the sexual abuse or exploitation of a child for the financial benefit of another person or the sexual exchange for anything of value. Now, this can be monetary or non monetary. In New York City alone, it's estimated that 2,200 children are victimized by commercial sexual exploitation annually. And a New York State study actually showed that up to 85% of trafficking victims had prior child welfare involvement, which just kind of highlights how important this work is.
And when we talk about the highlighting of the work, obviously 2,200 kids in New York City is a big number. That's a huge number to see. And there's many other cases that that are out there. For
Mhm.
somebody who's coming across your doors, give us a little bit of an idea of what happens from the moment a person comes through your doors to getting them to the place where they are now back and stable.
Yeah, so at JCCA, we have a behavioral health and wellness team. So it's a group of clinicians that are trained in various modalities. As I said, Center for Healing, we specialize in CSEC. So a child, as soon as they enter our facility, they are assigned a therapist. So they get weekly individual therapy, but you know, we they're on campus. They live here. They go to school here. They receive their services here, medical. So we also provide a lot of crisis intervention and help them day to day.
When we talk about human trafficking, give me an idea as to what are some of the things that we're hearing by way of stereotypes and myths, some things that probably we can debunk right now to get our viewers a little bit more closer to the issue at hand.
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions, unfortunately. So that's why I'm glad that you have us here today. One misconception is kind of this ambivalence that it doesn't happen in the United States, or if it does, it doesn't happen in my town or my community, or when it happened to my child or my child's friend. Kind of movies like Taken have really fueled this misconception of it happening in this large underground rings in foreign countries. But the truth is, it happens everywhere. And it's difficult to even fully capture the scale due to the underreporting and the stigma around it.
And for human trafficking, there are different types, if you will. And I became acquainted with this, did an interview with Q English not too long ago, and we were talking about the different types, or I should say some time ago, and we were talking about the different types of human trafficking. For our viewers, what are the different types of human trafficking?
Well, I mean, we see it in many different forms. People think that it's just traffickers only target strangers, right? This idea of stranger danger and that the bad people are pulling, kids into their car isn't actually the case. It's much more likely for youth to be groomed and recruited by those closest to them. So whether it be a relative or a family friend, a known neighbor, a boyfriend, or even a friend, like traffickers will frequently use children in care to recruit other children due to these increased vulnerabilities and access. These children that recruit their peers are often threatened that, if they don't produce another child, 60% are recruited by peers. And another dangerous misconception is that these youth are child traffickers, whereas in reality, they're children who have been victimized and are just trying to survive. There's other misconceptions that only girls are victims, but in fact, 1/3 of the youth are actually male. And this number is even more likely to be much higher, but unfortunately, these cases are more likely to go unreported due to the stigma and these feelings of shame, or warning signs get missed. People tend to be so focused on the warning signs for girls that they ignore the same signs for boys.
Warning signs, that's something we can talk about because that means that speaks to awareness. People knowing what to really look out
Mhm.
for, what to watch out for. I'm interested to know about that conversation that goes on in communities. How receptive are communities to the fact of human trafficking? Given the fact that you've made the analogy before, like most of us, you'll sit around and say, "Hey, I've seen Taken by with Liam Neeson, and that's not
Mhm.
here. That's not in my neighborhood." But the reality is, it's right in our neighborhoods, happening right under our doors, happening right under our noses.
Yeah, knowing these misconceptions really does help. Dialogues in the community, like one of the simplest ways is through educating on the wording that is used. We often hear these children referred to as child prostitutes, and this can be so harmful. They're children, right? They can't be prostitutes. They cannot consent to sexual acts. They are children who have experienced sexual abuse. So, also educating parents, teachers, caregivers on the warning signs, such as like changes in demeanor, appearance. Do they have new piercings, new tattoos? Are they frequently running away? Spending time in hotels or motels, especially with older people. Changes in friend groups or financial changes, such as having more or even less. Sometimes we'll have kids that just got their allowance and then they leave and then they have no money, right? So you think that you're coming back, but having less can be a sign. Um, Other signs, girls that leave and then they come back with their nails done and their hair done. And we know that their allowance doesn't pay for that, right? New sneakers, a new iPhone. These are all signs that we should be looking out for.
So when you talk about the awareness is going on and letting people know what's happening, receptivity. Let me ask about that question. How receptive are communities, individuals, given the fact that this is happening and it's happening at an alarming rate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle, to get past that idea that it doesn't happen to them. But we are seeing that a lot more people are becoming aware and, are taking interest in this and are reaching out to us for assistance.
So if people want more information, please give them how to get in touch.
Yes, please.
Oh, if you shared, I'm asking you to share.
Oh, I thought I did already. It's our website is www.cfhny.org. There you can find resources, you can request trainings, and we're always open to discuss.
Carrie, I want to thank you so much for being with us. It's a great talking to you. Very serious topic, but great to have the information and the resources available. Thanks much.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. Want to let you know we're taking a quick break. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. Our next guest shares his profound insights and experiences navigating the world of professional sports, weaving a narrative transcending the boundaries of athletics. From the sun-drenched playgrounds of South Florida to the pinnacle of success in the NBA, his journey is a testament to resilience, determination, and the transformative power of self-discovery. Here now is professional athlete and author, Jeffrey R. Coby, and good to have you, man.
Absolutely.
It's an honor to have you coming and sharing with us as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
And New York is no stranger to you. You spent time here with the New York Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. How's the Knick experience?
It's the experience was just like everything I've dreamed of and more. Mm-hmm. But to me, the journey towards it made a lot of things like my trials and tribulations. It made it all make sense, you know, like just seeing that whole process of self-development into, you know, not knowing what's going to happen, but just constantly working on yourself and just having faith in some sort of bigger picture. It was just like, wow, when it all materialized.
It's for your life, right? We talk a little bit about being the professional athlete, but it's, as you said, it's a journey, and you made this a part of your book. It's called The Mindful Journey, and of course you'll get a chance to hear a little bit more about it. When we look about the journey, we focus a lot on destination, but reality, your journey speaks a lot to you.
Absolutely.
What spoke most to you about your journey?
I would say, you know, the introduction of meditation. Because I felt like meditation was just that segue, that bridge into further self-development and really teaching me the lessons that I needed to learn along the journey, while also being present and enjoying the highs, the lows, the mids, like everything that has, you know, that took place within that time period. So it really helped me, you know, on my journey.
So you got the book for somebody's coffee table. What's the book about?
So the book is about my journey as a young obese kid with confidence issues in South Florida, and pretty much how I've navigated growing up into an adult, and how mindfulness has been such a pivotal factor within my growth, and also just catapulted me through different various situations and scenarios in which, you know, I thought I was just set up to fail. Yeah.
For yourself, writing this book, I understand that, you know, you got your inspiration while you were out there in my other hometown of Barcelona.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, what were you on the water? What were you doing, playing? What was going on? How did it happen? Just let me know, yeah.
So it's actually crazy because after, you know, our preseason when we beat FC Barcelona, you know, there was just some political stuff going on within the team, and long story short, the coach told me that I wasn't going to play anymore. So, you know, I had two options at that point, whether it was to self-destruct, you know, go and enjoy Barcelona and forget about the career, or, you know, dig deeper, work harder. And I started, you know, just researching a lot of stuff. What do successful people do when, you know, going through a tough time? And this article from the Harvard Business Review came about, and it talked about mindfulness and meditation and how it was so linked with the most successful CEOs and leaders. So I got curious, and I really just, you know,
start digging
in. Yeah. And then sooner, lo and behold, the writing came about, the meditation came about. I really just started, you know, focusing on myself, prioritizing my mental health. And, you know, things just started to blossom. Opportunities started to align with myself, my purpose, and then I just had more direction.
So where were you mentally when they come and say to you, because my story is a little similar too, like 2 weeks before the season starts, they come and tell you that the sponsor's gone.
Yeah.
You know, that's a hurtful feeling because you're stuck to, what's my next job? Where am I going, right?
Exactly.
So when did it really start to kick in for you where you started, I'm going to apply this mindfulness and learn this thing?
So pretty much after I got that news, I was heated. You know, like as a young kid, young professional overseas, it's like I've sacrificed so much just to be here, and you know all that energy, all that fuel that was inside of me. I was like, okay, I need to figure out how I could channel this in a way to lift me up out of here. So, you know, that's when the writing and the meditation started coming into play. And I learned about like energy manipulation, using the fuel to your fire so that you can get something bigger than where you currently are.
Yeah. So in many ways, this is an opportunity to share your life story, your life journey, but at the same time, there are vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah.
And there's some authorship that's coming through your vulnerabilities.
Definitely.
Not everybody likes to share their vulnerabilities, right?
Nah, absolutely not. But it's a sign of strength.
There it is.
Yeah.
When did you realize it was a sign of strength?
As I went on this journey of just learning, constant self-development, like because when you're showing the cards, it's like, okay, I'm not scared anymore. You know, like it doesn't matter. Like I'm confident, I'm comfortable within myself. And I know that this could potentially help somebody else who's going through something similar or who will face something like this, you know, in the future.
Yeah. So the message you want people to take away from the book, what is that?
I want people to dream big and don't be scared to fail. You know, like I purposely put it in the book. I failed 9 times before getting to my destination. Like, I want people to understand that it's okay to be persistent. It's okay to be annoying. It's okay to go to therapy and ask for help. Like, you have people who dedicate their lives to becoming professionals in these select industries so that they can help you be the best version of yourself. So, you know, why not tap into this side of resources that's only going to help you and better you, you know, put you in the mindset of becoming that person that you want to be and also experiencing that happiness that you seek.
But you're Jeffrey Coby. You can't be struggling with mental health. You're playing for the Knicks. You're going worldwide, Japan, Barcelona.
Of course.
The reality is there are a lot of athletes out there that actually deal with mental health.
For sure.
Talk to me from that perspective, because I think, you know, we look at athletes, you know, I said, my saying is they see the glory, but they don't know the story, right?
Oh, of course.
So what's the story?
Well, you know, as an athlete, you're in a performance-based industry. Everything is tracked. You're always, you know, under the lights. Like, it's hard to, you know, separate yourself from that and give yourself time, because you're constantly thinking about how can I get this edge? You know, damn, I played bad last game. Like, how can I improve on that? And also, not to mention, we're in this age of social media where we're just constantly being fed information of different people, different, you know, experiences, this, that, and the third. And in this realm of just, you know, constant competition, like, it's almost natural to inadvertently compare yourself to X, Y, and Z. And, you know, my messaging behind this whole, you know, book and, you know, what I'm about is you need to be able to block out that noise and make time for you. Mm-hmm. And because if you don't, you know, you're going to be so anxious. It's going to be every day is just going to be, you know, relatively volatile. One day you want to be you, the next you want to be like him, next day you want to do this. You know, it's not sustainable for, you know, it's not sustainable in my opinion.
Right, no, the authentic self, right?
Yeah.
And I think the authentic self is where you can have a mentally healthy life, but so many people don't get the authentic self because we're presented with a whole lot of images, this, that, and the third, and the night. At what point did things really start coming around for you to say, I got the handle on this thing?
You know, once I really went on that journey of, okay, what is Jeff doing right now? What does
Right.
Jeff want to do in a year? What does Jeff want to do in 3 years? And that's when it really clicked in, because it's like, okay, that's not serving me, but this is. So I need to do more of this and less of that, you know? And when you're able to put things in a perspective like that, you can really track your growth and experience your growth, which is the most beautiful part.
Where are we at on the basketball side right now? What you doing?
Right now I'm in training, and, you know, we'll see towards, you know, August where I sign next.
When you watch the season right now and you see we're almost in playoff season, what's that feeling like sitting there watching it from home?
Man, I'm a student of the game. You know, I'm glad I get to, you know, experience these, witness these awesome athletes who are just exceptionally talented. And, you know, I just get to learn. I watch it from a critical eye versus, like, you know, the point of view of a fan.
So give a little bit of context to those who may not know. When you were with the Knicks, who was on the Knicks at the time?
Tim Hardaway, Kristaps, Trey Burke, Courtney Lee, Enes Kanter, my OG Lance Thomas.
Yeah. And now when we look at the New York Knicks, we're seeing Jalen Brunson. We're seeing, first of all, it's exciting in the Garden. I don't know about you,
yeah, it's electric.
What do you say when you watch them now?
I'm just like, wow, it's beauty. It's a thing of beauty. It's a thing of art.
Yeah.
Playing very well, and it's just on brand with the Knicks basketball.
So for yourself, do you have a dream place that you want to play?
Probably like Italy or something.
Oh man, you're talking sweet right there. Now you brought me back. All right, yeah, Italy, yes sir. So probably Italy. You haven't done it yet.
Not yet.
Wow.
It's all right, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm manifesting it.
Yeah, manifested. Listen, we're gonna put our minds to it, right? We're gonna put our minds to it. What message do you have for kids when it comes to really athletics? Because I think so many kids do. They see guys and they see, you know, a gentleman such as yourself, you know, you make it to the pro level. We know what that number is like, the amount of kids that actually do get to make it to pro sports. Yeah. What's your message to them about following your dream, but then B, let's keep it 100. What's that backup plan?
Yeah. I would say, you know, you have to start as the student before you could become, you know, I don't want to say the master, but, you know, somebody who's very proficient, AKA a professional.
Right.
So never lose that hunger for knowledge, wisdom, and experience. Like, you need to go out there and learn as much as you can. Help people. Like, if there's a pro in your city, like, go up to him and be like, hey, can I just rebound for you? Like, little things like the little things go a long way. That's like the biggest takeaway that I could, you know, from my personal journey that I could give to somebody else. But also just investing in coaching, investing in a professional, investing in somebody who's very proficient at their craft to help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And the mental health component, too. Talk about that, because I think there's some people out there, not some, let me go back. I'll even rephrase the question. When we talk about mental health, we know that there's a stigma out there.
For sure.
The stigmas out there is that, you know, you're crazy, this, that, and third. The reality is that everybody needs somebody, and mental health doesn't make you crazy. It makes you in a place where you really just need to just, you know, sometimes have that therapy and that talk.
For sure.
Give that word of advice for somebody who may be struggling in the area of mental health to say, listen, you know what? It's not as bad as you think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, like, don't be scared, because it's obviously there's a bunch of stigmas. You know, you look a certain way, but in reality, it's only making you stronger, and it's going to help you on your journey. And I say that, you know, with great conviction, because it's literally helped me, and in so many different ways. And, you know, my most important thing is, you know, once you see the benefits of reaching out and also putting yourself in the position to get a therapy or talk to a close friend or loved one, you know, in one of those, in that idea of, okay, it's not just the, you know, day-to-day conversation, we're getting deep here.
Right.
You'll see how you start to grow, and that's the whole, you know, that's the main takeaway from life, is you want to continue evolving. So.
Did you see yourself being an author?
No.
Wasn't in the books.
So this was literally a product of meditation, in which meditation led me to journaling. And if you're doing this over time, like meditation was helping with my focus, the journaling was helping with articulating myself and writing. And that led to, okay, let me write a book.
So now that you got one down, is there another in the tank?
Oh man, of course. Always cooking. Always cooking.
What are you thinking about for the second one? You ready to know, or do you just got ideas?
I'm just floating ideas out right now. I want to take more time to, give this the proper attention, and then, once it's time, then we'll revisit this conversation.
Well, let's give this some proper attention. Where do people get this?
They can find it at Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
You can go over there and find a little bit about, not a little bit. Well, yeah, it's a look into the life and success, failure, authorship, mental health. What else we got in there?
We got resilience, resources, purpose, and art.
And all that you can find in the book. For yourself, what part shocked you the most in all of this?
I would say chapter 10.
Don't say it. I'm going to go there, chapter 10. All right, we're going to chapter 10. Two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
We're going to two sides of the coin. What am I going to find two sides of the coin here?
Towards the end.
Getting chapter 9. We're rolling up on chapter number 10. Okay, two sides of the coin. Here we are. Tell me. As you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping others, one for helping yourself, and the other for helping others. That's Audrey Hepburn's quote. So take me through real quick. Got a couple seconds.
So the main premise behind that, that's when I was going through a very tough time. I pretty much lost everything. And I went to, it was through a series of just like depression, darkest days of them all. And, lo and behold, after some time, I went to therapy. And through therapy, my therapist was like, you need to figure out a way to articulate yourself. You need to give back in some sense. And that's when I picked up photography and just like messing around with some music. And then the last thing was volunteering. So, through volunteering, I was able to find myself again. And that's what, towards the end of the chapter, you see how I was able to strategically coach a young hooper who, had his respective problems, and where he was before and where he ended up, which was just a thing of beauty.
He gave y'all chapter 10, y'all, so you got to get the rest of the book so you get the rest of it down.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Coby, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you, man.
Absolutely.
Come on back.
Of course,
all right,
anytime.
We love to, all right? Let you know, Jeffrey Coby. If you want to find out where to get the book now, I want to tell you, check it out again, Barnes & Nobles and Amazon, and there you can get a mindful journey. It's the story of Jeffrey Coby, and you'll want to read it. All right, I want to let you know we come to the end of our show today. Hope that you enjoyed this week's discussion on the Bronx Social Justice Forum. Now, if you want to join the conversation and present your point of view, you can visit our social media at BronxNet TV. Join us next week. We'll continue to elevate the discussion and bring further awareness across the globe. I'm your host, Daren Jaime, saying take care. God bless.